Welcome to this next session with me, Richard. I'm the founder of infoodle, and I'm looking after the technical side of what's going on with the product. And this session here is to discuss the things that have been happening over the past year, some highlights that would be of interest to you, I hope, and the areas that maybe you're not particularly investigated as yet. So we just want to make sure we pull those out so you can have a look at it. But also some of the new and exciting things that we're about to release and are working on for imminent release. So hold on to your hats and let's start exploring what these different areas are going to be. One key aspect of infoodle is customization. Every organization that we deal with is slightly different, and you want a product that works for you and in the way that you think and the way that you operate. And in order to achieve that, we have to build in quite a degree of customization. So we work very hard on that area. With customization comes a bit of complexity, but the goal is to make it simple and straightforward to use and logical for you, depending upon which type of organization that you're in. So you're going to be using different types of customization depending upon your organization. So not all of these will be useful for you, but we just want to highlight them so you can start your brain thinking about how it could work. So one of those is contact types. So contact types is a way of identifying the different types of contacts that you've got within your database. It's flexible, so you can do it in any particular way you want. Contact type is just a term that we've come up with that's hopefully generic enough. So it could be a donor, it could be a beneficiary, it could be a organization, it could be a person who works for that organization, it could be a trustee member, or it could be a volunteer. So you've got different ways, different types of different categories maybe of people and of contacts that you're trying to work with, and as a result you want to be able to see and focus on different types of data for those people. So what we've done is enabled you to create a view based on each of the types of people that you've got within your database. So as you can see on this screen, we've got 4 different types of contacts that have been particularly named, and you've got a default. So anybody who hasn't got a particular type configured. So you can see here on the left, we've got things that can be shown to the user, can be the personal areas, photos, history, those kind of things. And yet when you come over to a grant application type organization, then we're only looking at personal and history. Within that, there are different fields that we can capture. So Dave will go into this in more detail so you can explore that. But just to get your ideas thinking, this is how different contacts are viewed within infoodle, and you can customize it or not use it depending on what you're doing. So in one of our other sessions, you'll be able to explore this in more detail. Obviously, there's information on the help system as well. So just to give you an idea how this could operate within the system, let's go across to our infoodle support contact, and you can see we've got information here, how the tabs are all organized across the top, and we've got a contact type here across the top here. So if I edit that, I can change that to a grant application member. I can save that, and the layout has refreshed, changed, tabs have disappeared. The layout is now focused more on that grant application. So that's one system that runs across the whole of your platform, one configuration across the whole platform. So whatever you configure for one works for everybody. So that's worth keeping in mind. But hopefully it will give you a lot more flexibility about how that works. The other aspect which is related to this is the actual layout on the page. Often we've been asked, well, we're actually focusing on one area, like the files, for instance, and we need that on every page, and finance is another common one. So when I'm looking at a profile, I want to make sure I'm looking at those particular pieces of information. So we've enabled this functionality within the profile layout. So under administration, we've got profile layout, and you can see here, these are the different types of blocks that you're able to put on the profile page. So those that are blue with an eye that is showing means that they are visible, as opposed to these that are not visible. And we can move those around. We can make them visible or not, depending upon what it is that we're doing. Some exist on both sides, like connections does. So it just depends on how you want to view it. And you can click save on that to view that. Again, we'll have a look at that in more detail. But what's happened is that the infoodle support page has now been changed, and we've got the notes and connections appearing up there. You can also personalize it to your own view. So you as a treasurer may be looking at it differently from a fundraiser, for instance, and so you want to be looking at different types of information. So you can configure it in your own page layout, and you can see we've got the standard structure, but I can actually have groups showing on this page as well, because that's the way I like to look at it, or I can restore it back to the default if I've made a mistake. So customized views, customized views of the data that you're looking at, depending upon the contact type and depending on who you are. Likewise, we can customize the type of data that you're storing. So in addition to things like date fields, text fields, sort of some of the regular fields that you've been used to, we've also got the ability to be able to store multiple select fields. So a multiple select field is a field that enables you to be able to select more than one item at a time, depending upon how that data works. So we can see here allergy, for instance. When I edit allergy, then I've got a different type here. You can see there's a pencil mark over on the side, and I can choose not only one of those, but I can also choose peanuts as well, and horses. So I've got lots of allergies, so I can record that and we can report against that as well. So it's just a quick way of being able to have multiple items, multiple data values against a particular contact for whatever purpose suits you. Okay, so with that, I'm showing the detail. Lastly, there is the ability to be able to recognize the relationships between your contacts. So we've got households or organizations. As you're aware, we've also got groups where we can connect people outside of their household. We've also, for a number of years, had the idea of a person link field. And a person link field means that one individual contact can be linked to another individual contact from any other part in the database, but this is linked in a one-to-many relationship. So one sponsor may sponsor multiple beneficiaries. Okay, so that's a fairly common. A teacher may look after multiple pupils. All right, so we've got different one-to-many scenarios. However, it becomes increasingly clear that I could have a many-to-many relationship. So a teacher can look after multiple pupils, but that pupil can be looked after multiple teachers. So it becomes a many-many relationship, and so we needed to enhance that. So what we built is a connections process. So a connection screen enables you to have multiple relationships with different people. So we can see here infoodle support has got a connection with Fred Hunter. So infoodle is a chair of whichever group it happens to be, but they're a chair, and Fred Hunter is the coffee runner. So we can also add more. So infoodle support is also connected to Fred for the purposes of he is a treasurer and he is also the coffee runner. So you've got the same person can be connected to the same people for two different purposes. So it's a way of recognizing the different relationships that people have. So you've got the pupil teacher, you've got who's a chair, who's a treasurer, what type of relationship have you got with this other person. And you can be connected with many other people. There's no limit on that. And there's no limit on the types of connections that you can have. It's simply a lookup field that we've extended to be a multiple lookup field. So you can create that in the normal way. Again, we'll explore that further in another session. So if you want to know more details about that, then by all means look that up. So finance is another area we've been doing a lot of work on this past year. One area is a pledge drive. So pledge drives are for those of you that are running campaigns that span multiple periods. So for instance, you could be running it over several years. So it's a constant campaign that's always part of your profile, and yet you still need to be able to report on different sections of that. So what did you do this financial year, for instance, as opposed to others, or maybe this quarter. So to do that, we can set up a particular pledge drive. So within the campaign screen, you're able to configure a pledge drive, what the dates are, and then you can run reports on that through your pledge versus actual or from your general finance report screen. So pledge drives can be really helpful for those of you who are doing quite a lot of work in the whole campaign fundraising area. An additional area that we've fairly recently put in place is the ability for your receipts to not only go out as they have been before, and we've done some performance tuning around that as well, is we've also enabled you to be able to include, or by default it's included, the receipt as part of the actual email that goes out. So it's something that's been asked for a while, and there's been technical challenges around why we haven't done it, but we have now achieved those, and we're now, every email that gets sent out, it does include a copy of the receipt intact. So that those users who are having difficulty in downloading their files, their receipts, are now able to get those straight away. They can still click the link, and it still requires that link for a download as a backup function for some people, where emails may struggle in that way, but you can basically now incorporate those PDFs, or it's by default it will now incorporate those PDFs for you, so hopefully will reduce the number of calls you get from certain people. So another aspect of improvement we've been building on in the finance area is GoCardless. So for many of you, particularly in the UK, GoCardless is a key payment provider for you to be able to get those transactions in. It's great because they are doing it via direct debit, therefore the costs are significantly less, and they're capped at £4, unless they go above £2,000, I think it is. But basically there is a more manageable cost associated with doing direct debits. So GoCardless is an extremely common mechanism for doing that, so we want to have made that available for you. So yeah, we'd encourage you to use that. It is available in other countries, but just check to make sure that it is available for non-profits, because they've got certain business types that they support and that they don't support, depending upon which country it is. It is a UK-based originated company, and so therefore they support everything within the UK. It's not true of Australia not true of New Zealand. Australia it does support, but New Zealand it doesn't. So, related to finance is that recognizing the fact that the data that you're storing within infoodle is quite sensitive, very sensitive in fact, and probably the weakest area of connection to infoodle is the username and password that you guys manage. And so it's well known to be a weak area within any system. So what we've done is enabled two-factor authentication. So this is where you have a username and password, but you also have your phone, which gives you a unique code to be able to access the system. So it takes 3 pieces of information to be able to get into your system. So anybody who's using finance, particularly, we really encourage you quite strongly to actually use two-factor authentication where you can. So in order to do this or encourage this process, we've added in the ability within the administration roles area. You can now see there's a login settings, and login settings has at this stage only got one option, which says I want to enforce two-factor authentication from this date. So what it means is that you can set a date in the future which says from this date onwards, then our users must have two-factor authentication enabled. So when I click save on this now, you can see nothing's particularly changed, but when I log in, I come to my dashboard, I'm going to get a big warning message which says you need to make sure that you set up your two-factor authentication. Once you have passed that date of the 29th of October, nothing else is possible within this system other than completing your two-factor authentication. So that's a key thing we want to encourage you to use and to give you protection over the data that you're working on. So that's two-factor authentication. Finally, in terms of things that have already been implemented, is cascading workflows. So some of you have been working on workflows and started to incorporate those within your processes, and that's great to try and automate some of the aspects that you're doing. Some you will find I've actually got multiple workflows and I'm duplicating the work that I'm doing here as far as setting them up, and so if I make a change, I've got to make a change in multiple places and things like that. So what we've enabled is the ability to have cascading workflows. So when you've got more than one workflows and you want to repeat it, then when I edit that particular workflow, you can see one of the steps that I've got available to me is that I can add to a workflow. So clicking on that means I can choose the other workflow to fall onto. So it will trigger in the normal way that this workflow has. It will go through the various steps, and then it will be passed on to the in this case the welcome email workflow that I could then also be referencing from other workflows. So hopefully it's an efficiency thing for you, makes it clearer to manage and maintain your various workflows. All right. There's been plenty of other changes, but those are the ones we particularly want to highlight to you. So now comes some of the exciting stuff as to what it is that we're actually going to be working on in the future. And so some of these will be done on slides, some of them we'll be able to show you. So Starting off is data management. So data management is an area that, for those of you who've been with us for a while, we've been working with and trying to produce a system that is workable for you. We've actually had 3 iterations of this, but we're confident we're on the right lines now. So we're working through the process to release this to you before the end of the year. So in order to do that, it's going to have quite a lot of sophistication around it. It's certainly going to enable you to be able to add new contacts, manage your add new contacts, to update in bulk new contacts. So it's going to help with deduplication as well. So it's going to present to you the likelihood of duplicate contacts in a much more friendly way, and do it in real time, certainly within your regular day-to-day activities as well. So it's going to be quite a powerful solution to this more bulk area of data management. A lot of what we do, whilst we've got workarounds that you've been working with using workflows and the like, this ability to be able to manage bulk changes is a key thing we want to do. And a lot of you are going to be able to add bulk people because you get them from other areas. The systems that you're integrating with enables you to get lists of data, and you want to be able to bulk add them in, making sure there's no duplicates, those kind of things. So we're working quite hard on this. It's a primary activity that we're doing at the moment to be able to get that out to you. So that's the data management area that we're working through. A smaller piece that we're going to be adding on then is a room management piece. So room management means that you're going to be able to have a billboard of activity which shows you all of the different events that are going on today within your facilities. So if you're operating an office, for instance, or a church that's got multiple rooms, you want to be able to see what's going on when, who's involved, who's not. So as you can see from the slide, we've got a screen which is identifying when things are happening, who's involved, where it is, and any particular notes about it. So hopefully that will be able to surface that information to you in a helpful way. It's coming from the event screen, so you'll be adding events in as you would do normally and then surfacing out using this special screen. So that's a room schedule. It's a small area, but it's something that is helpful to a particular number of people, and to visualize the calendar as we're looking at things. So the help system is another area that is of particular concern to us, to make it really helpful. Again, we've been through 2 other iterations of the help system as we've grown and learnt about better ways to communicate with you, and as the tools that are available within the environment have improved as well to give better functionality. And so what we're embarking on is a process to be able to upgrade all of our help. So we're reviewing all of it, updating the screenshots, updating the videos, and migrating the content over to a new system, which not only presents things in a more logical and friendly manner, has a much better search system as part of it. So hopefully, as you can see on these screens that we're looking at, you can also control whether it's light or whether it's dark. So that's again a bit more friendliness for you, for those people who like to have the dark mode on, which is very common these days. So we can again, it's all about making that helpful. And the more help it can be, then the more that you can get out of infoodle, and the better use you can make of it, so you don't have scratching your head all the time. So we want to make that help helpful. So we also want to make it searchable. So it's, as with any help system, it's tricky to find the information that you want. Often you need to know the right search term that you're looking for before you can find what you're actually looking for. So it's a constant challenge to make that usable. So this new help system, part of what we're exploring with this is actually a rather fun aspect, which is AI. So using artificial intelligence, we can use a search tool to be able to search into our system using language that means something to you and gets translated into the language that is in the help system. So it means that you're able to find the information more readily, more easily, in a more friendly and helpful manner. And it's quite a new area for help systems generally. And we find it certainly a powerful way to be able to enable you to interact with all the content that we've got, because we've got hundreds and hundreds of pages of content, and it's trying to find that content that is pertinent to your particular question. So along with that, these number of changes that we're working through, the big area we've been working on, and we've mentioned it a few times, is the whole email system. The email system has had a number of enhancements that we've needed to put in place. Key amongst that is the ability for you to be able to create your own graphically intensive emails. And so you can see with the screenshot that we're showing now, this new email system enables a designer similar to ones you've used in other products, maybe at MailChimp, maybe at Constant Contact, maybe some of these other ones that enable a kind of graphic building your newsletter type email. And so we really want to make email to be helpful and beautiful as well, to be able to enable you to communicate out with your partners and your community in a way that is more attractive and more interactive for them to be able to communicate with. So not only is there a new designer, there's a new layout. We've worked really hard on this user interface to make it more clean in terms of how you're interacting with it, what data this screen requires, ensuring that you're only seeing the information that you really work on regularly. So from that perspective, hopefully the work has been worthwhile. So you're looking at some of these screens, and hopefully once we've released that, you'll find that it's a lot fewer clicks to be able to get to what you need, and you'll be able to more clearly see and configure in your own way how you want the email to operate. So yeah, it's a big enhancement. Not only does it include design changes, there's also unsubscribe processes that are built in. Again, we're going to be exploring this in a lot more detail in one of our other sessions. So dive into that one for a page by page, have a look at in terms of how this new system is going to be working. There's fundamentally, you can still use the email system as you do today, but there are significant enhancements that are going to mean you've got a lot more control, you've got a lot better email system basically. So the last thing we want to highlight is another area we're working on. We're fully recognizing that we're living in a COVID world, and so whilst some countries are doing better than others, there are still this challenge around how we manage our people within a COVID situation. And one of those areas is you need to gather as an organization to make decisions. Making decisions has traditionally been done by voting, and so traditionally you need to be together to make that vote. That in some cases is impossible, but yet your organization still has a requirement to continue, and so voting online is really the only mechanism. So we should be rolling out some changes which will enable online voting to become part and parcel of how you can make decisions as an organization, and there are securities around it and the normal parameters that you'd expect in order to ensure that your vote is legitimate and recognizable. So we're working on that at the moment, and we hope that to be released fairly soon in order for you to be able to carry on in your normal functions, your AGMs, those kind of things that need to happen with multiple people within this COVID environment. So that's a number of the changes that we're immediately working on. Some now, some soon to come out. So watch out for these changes. We do notify changes within our updates area within the help system. So if you click onto the help within infoodle and then recent updates, you will always see the most recent ones there, and there'll be a short text at least to give you a highlight of what's going on. We really encourage you to attend our free training on a regular basis, maybe once a quarter, once a 6 months maybe. Is just make that part and parcel of your own development, because infoodle is constantly moving forward, and we want to make sure you're aware of all of the changes that we're doing, because we're putting them in to make infoodle better and to make your interaction with it better. So really encourage you just to attend one of our free sessions, to have a look at some of the new stuff that's going on, maybe ask a few questions. We're there to help. It's informal, it's friendly, and it's definitely a way of you being able to keep being engaged within infoodle. And it making the best within your organization. So obviously there's also videos and training and things like that to be able to keep things going. So as soon as you see a screen that is slightly unusual, it's changed. It didn't used to look like this. I'm sure there was a button over there and it's not there anymore. That kind of thing. Just jump into the help system and have a quick look at the updates to see what's changed. And you'll find that what the purpose is or the reason behind those changes, so you can be kept up to date with it all. I know often some people worry about how many changes there are, and that's a way of stepping back, but I encourage you to get involved or give us a call. We're always here to have a chat with you and see how things are going. So we want to make sure that you're engaged with that as well. So I hope that was useful, give you a bit of a high level overview on some of these changes. As we said, there are more in-depth sessions to have a look at some of these things in more detail. So jump into those and have a look at those. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed it.